What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and we're doing another ridiculous 40k rules. The rules series where we break down a rules thing in 40k and analyze it in excruciating detail. Now that we have new points for the Death Guard Codex, we're likely to be seeing units like Death Guard, Chaos Spawn on tables in the near future. And I got a lot of questions and also saw some people misinterpreting how exactly Death Guard Chaos Spawn work. Now, on the whole, the unit is pretty straightforward. It has a Chaos Spawn defensive and offensive profile, a random number of attacks, and a bunch of core abilities: Deadly Demise 1, Feel No Pain 5-up, and a 6-inch scout move. But what I really want to dig into today is their special ability, Lethal Ichor. This ability states that each time a melee attack is allocated to a model in this unit after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks, roll 1d6 to a maximum of 6d6 per attacking unit. For each 4+, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Now, the reason that this is weird is because of how counterintuitive the trigger is. A lot of people don't understand what it means when you allocate an attack. It sounds like it would trigger as soon as the unit is targeted by an attack. You would allocate the attacks from the attacking unit to their particular target. That's not correct, however. If we look at the making attacks section of the core rules, the allocate attack step is step 3 of the process. This is what occurs after a wound is successful, but before a saving throw is made. Essentially, during this step, the defending player chooses one model in their unit that is eligible to have attacks assigned to it. That typically means that it is a model that has been damaged already or has already been allocated attacks during that phase, and then moves on and takes a saving throw for it. So this ability might as well say, after a melee attack successfully wounds the spawn unit, if there are wounds remaining for saves to be taken against that attack, then the 4+ mortal wound effect goes on the stack. You will determine the number of mortal wounds that you get rolled for at the time that you take the saving throws, and you'll add to that pool. Then once those attacks are fully resolved, move over and resolve and determine exactly how many mortal wounds are dealt. Now, this also has some weird implications for fast dice rolling against the Chaos Spawn. Because wounds can't be allocated to destroyed models, it's important to determine exactly how many attacks get allocated to the Chaos Spawn. Now, the fast dice rolling rules, which are the rules which govern how you roll attacks all at once, the core rules of 440k treat attacks as all being resolved sequentially. You will roll your hit, wound, saving throw, damage, and feel no pains, then apply damage one at a time, and then move to the next attack in sequence. That's obviously totally unplayable in terms of actual game, so the core rules include a fast dice rolling method, which allows you to bundle those attacks together and roll them together. Now, the first paragraph of the fast dice rolling rules state that as long as the attacks have the same weapon skill or ballistic skill, strength, armor penetration, and inflict the same damage, they can be rolled together. However, it then states that attacks are allocated and saves are rolled one at a time. Now, there's a clause in the second paragraph that describes that if all those saves have the same target number and you are receiving the same damage from all of them, then you can also bundle all your saves. However, there is a clause that states that you may not do this as long as the order in which those attacks are allocated makes no difference. However, it does make a difference in the case of the Chaos Spawn. This is because you can't allocate attacks to a model who's destroyed, or in that case, even a unit that's destroyed. There would just be excess damage that spills over. So, for example, if I were attacking the Chaos Spawn with 2 damage weapons, if they flub all of their saving throws and feel no pains, the unit, which has a total of 8 wounds, 2 models with 4 wounds each, could only suffer 4 allocated attacks before being destroyed, in which case the additional attacks are not allocated, those are just excess damage. This would mean that I would only then roll 4 dice, thanks to the Lethal Ichor ability, even though my opponent may have successfully wounded 10 times by fast dice rolling. So the correct way to resolve this ability is for the attacking player to roll all of their attacks, their hit rolls, and wound rolls, then pass those wound rolls to the defending player. The Chaos Spawn player will then roll to determine the number of attacks that they must allocate. So they will go through and roll their saving throws one at a time, or to save time, most likely in batches of up to the number of attacks they could potentially allocate to the Chaos Spawn. If the Spawn unit has 5 wounds remaining and suffers 10 successful wounds from 1 damage attacks, you can roll 5 saving throws to determine whether a 6th allocation would be necessary. And given the fact that this ability caps at 6 total dice to determine mortal wounds, it means that in most cases, you will be suffering at least 6 successful wound rolls before you go down, in which case you're probably fine just to roll the 6 dice in response rather than slow rolling this out. However, if there are very high impact attacks that are resolved first or that are intermixed into the attacking unit, it can be the case that the attacking player actually kills the Chaos Spawn before allocating more than 5 wounds, in which case they won't suffer all of the mortal wounds in response. So essentially the way to defeat this would be to attack the Chaos Spawn with the highest damage weapons available first in an attempt to kill them as quickly as possible before Lethal Ichor stacks up enough triggers to then hit you after you've rolled all your attacks. If you have a bunch of 1 damage weapons and a bunch of 4 damage weapons in your unit, always attack with the 4 damage weapons first to try to kill the unit in 2 or 3 allocated attacks, rather than in the many allocated attacks from all of your 1 damage models, for example. Now, the number of times that this is going to come into play and the number of cases where this distinction is going to matter are extremely, extremely rare. Because most often the Chaos Spawn is a tanky enough unit, they will take at least 6 attacks, 6 saving throws in order to take down. Determining it this way probably doesn't make a huge difference, but it is a very confusing timing for abilities like this. Now, in fairness, it's not the first time that we have seen this ability. Stratagems like in Fellhammer Siege Host has a riposte style stratagem that allows them to deal damage in response to melee attacks. We also see things like Castellan Robots, who can put this mortal wound trigger on the proverbial stack in response to saving throws from allocated attacks. Those are all technically conducted in exactly the same way. It's not a super common ability, but this isn't the first time we've seen it in 40k, so I do think that it is important to discuss. So as a TLDR, make sure that you're slow rolling out your Chaos Spawn rolls in batches that make sense to determine that you actually inflict the 6d6 wounds back to your opponent rather than dying early and allowing them to get off scot-free. And similarly, if you are playing against Chaos Spawn, don't let the Chaos Spawn player roll more dice than they would normally get by killing them quickly with those high damage weapons. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about this rule. I think it's a little innocuous one, but it is definitely relatively convoluted. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Thanks as well to everybody who supports the channel, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. All your people are amazing, and I love you. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.